This is Hockey Talk, where we talk everything hockey. I am John.
And I'm Mike.
All right, Mike, let's go. First topic for tonight's discussion is, of course, the Four Nations Cup and how the final game was played out. Canada scored first. It was Nathan MacKinnon. Then 2 goals by Team USA. Brady Tkachuk and Sanderson, they scored to make it 2-1 USA. Bennett tied it in the second period, and then, of course, went to overtime. And Connor McDavid scored in overtime on a beautiful pass. And Canada did win the tournament. I just want to know, Mike, what did you think of the overall game?
Oh, it was an awesome game. Lots of back and forth. Each team had some decent chances. So not many penalties. So, which I kind of expected. Figured the referees were going to let the players decide this one. And of course they did. So, but no, it was a great game. High pace. There was always a threat of a scoring chance. So, which is
Right,
good to see.
right. And the game is so fast.
Yeah.
And those players are so good. There's so many.
Yeah.
And I found now that after the tournament, I'm watching some NHL games and I'm looking at them. And I'm like, you know what? This game seems a little bit slow.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally different play style. Whereas it's not the Four Nations. It was all up tempo games. Like there's no, there wasn't a lot of dump ins and that sort of stuff without purpose. I mean, that's one thing. Plus they're trying to score every play and keep possession as opposed to, instead of dumping it in and getting a line change, they were trying to keep possession and make the line change. So,
Right.
and that's a little bit different. Like in the NHL, generally they dump it in to get their line change. But I found in the Four Nations or the last game anyways, it was more of get the line change while you still have possession. So, which is what they should be doing. And to me, that's a style of play that, any NHL coach should want to have. Why give the puck to the other team when if you're able to maintain possession of it and get a line change in, do that. But anyway, little different styles of play, obviously. So,
Right. Well, a fourth line from the Four Nations tournament compared to a fourth line on, say,
exactly.
whatever the Montreal Canadiens or whoever, it doesn't really matter who.
Any team, basically.
Yes, any team. It's just not going to be comparable. It's not going to be the same thing at
Right.
all. So, all right. Well, it was a great tournament, and I can't wait to, I guess in 2 years, we're probably going to see it again, I think, is how it's all going to play out. And then next year is the Olympics, I think. So,
Yeah.
should be interesting. All right. So, let's go on to our second topic. Kind of leads in from the first topic, the Edmonton Oilers and their goaltending. Now, the reason why I want to bring this up is the Oilers have played two. Now, I have 2 games down on here. It's 3 since then, and they've been, beaten up pretty bad since then. They lost to the Flyers 6-3 and Washington 7-3. And the goaltending for the Oilers has not looked the greatest, to say the least. Once again, TSN, of course, is saying, hey, let's look at the cup. Bennington, he won the cup for Canada. He was playing great. And Edmonton should do everything in their power to try and get Bennington on their team and do whatever it takes, Mike, because of the Four Nations Cup win. So, Mike, is TSN, are they onto something here, or are they just crazy?
Well, I think that St. Louis would be open to moving Bennington. But clearly the tournament has upped his value a little bit because he did play, you know, he played a little bit so in the first few games, but he stepped up when he needed to, and he played really well in the last game. St. Louis also has Joel Hofer, who's a good young goaltender
Right?
in their system, who was stealing a little bit of Bennington's starts for a little bit, but Bennington has played a little bit better, so he kind of took those starts back. The only way I can see Edmonton really getting Bennington is that to fit that contract, then I think they'd have to move Skinner, and I'm not sure they've given up on him yet. So tough to say. I think it would be if they were able to fit Bennington in and Skinner, I think that would be a good combo for them. Clearly better than what they've currently got. However, with Pickard as the backup right now, and he's not great. So, um, who knows? We'll see if Edmonton can move a little bit of money around at the deadline, maybe. But I don't think St. Louis is going to just give him away. They're going to expect a decent return for him. So tough to say. We'll see though.
Well, St. Louis is in the running as well. They're close.
They're close. I think if they are to make that move, it's going to be more dependent on what happens over the next week because the deadline's March 7th. So,
Right. Yep.
which is just over a week, I guess. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see. I don't see a move happening before the deadline, anyways, as if Bennington was involved. So,
Plus, Bennington is a $6 million cap hit.
well,
And
that's
his salary, his
exactly
contract is good until 2027. I looked it up. So Edmonton doesn't have the cap space. They would have to move players around. And
right. And I mean, if they were to do so, the logical thing would be to move Skinner because he's got a higher cap hit as well. So,
right.
but unless they feel that they've totally given up on Skinner, I don't know if they make that move or not. But who knows? We'll see what happens by the 7th, I guess.
Well, I wanted to bring that up because I thought TSN was reaching a little bit. I just don't think that this is going to happen at all. But, whatever, they're talking and I heard it. So I wanted to bring it up and ask you what you thought. Let's go on to our third topic then. Now, I watched the game on Sunday between the New York Rangers and Pittsburgh. Now,
Yeah, I watched that one as well.
Yeah. Well, with about 4:45 roughly left in the second period, New York Rangers had a total of 5 shots on net. Pittsburgh had 27.
Yeah, I actually made a comment in one of my other hockey pool group chats about it. I'm like, oh my God, how are the Rangers even in this game with 5
Right.
shots? So,
And at that point, the Rangers didn't have a shot on net in the second period.
right.
They had 0. So at that time, the game was tied 1-1. Now, the New York Rangers, of course, they scored the next goal, and then they ended up winning the game 5-3. Total shots, Mike, were 40-16. Now, is this the new NHL these days, Mike? Because it's not the amount of shots any longer. It's the number of high danger chances teams have. I seem to remember back in the day when we were a lot younger, we were always looking at that stat. How many shots did the team have? How many shots did they have? New metrics, it just looks like that's not important anymore.
Well, a lot has changed since back then. For one, the size of the goalies and the goalie pads have really changed. So before, a decent shot on net was a threat to go in. Now, I mean, the goaltenders plus the skill level that they have now compared to what there was, way back in the 80s and the 90s, there's such difference now. Most goalies today would look like superstars back then, with the goalie coaches and all the training and conditioning that they do nowadays compared to what was back then. So, I mean, getting back to shots and then high danger shots, yes, the high danger shots have become more of a thing than total shots. But as the saying goes, the more shots you get, the more goals you're going to score. So generally, that's how it works. I mean, any team that can generate a lot of shots is going to score more goals. But the high danger chances also make a big difference too. So it's changed a little bit. So not overly surprised. I mean, it's kind of more of like one of those analytical things that they talk about now. So.
Yep, and I noticed too the Rangers are only 2 or 3 points back, so they're creeping up there.
Yeah,
So,
it's going
but
to
I
be a
mean,
battle.
but they did not look good for the first 2/3 of that game the other night, but the
No,
other
not
day
at all. Not at all. I mean, yeah, just
it
goes
was
to show
bad.
how bad Pittsburgh has gotten, I guess, too.
Yeah,
So
well, and that leads into, as of Tuesday. So I did not include last night's game that Pittsburgh lost. The Penguins
they
are
get
in fifth.
destroyed.
I know. They did.
That's right. Flyers killed them.
And we're going to talk about that later, too. The Penguins are in 15th spot in the conference, 7 points back, probably more now. Tied for the most games played in the conference, which is not good, at 59. Is there any hope at all for the Penguins, Mike? Are they going to miss the playoffs again for a third straight year?
Guaranteed they're going to miss the playoffs. If you like to place bets, put some money down on it. They're going to miss the playoffs. There's no chance of them making the playoffs this year.
So they can't go 20 and
No,
21 and 5 and make the
they cannot.
playoffs?
Not a chance. One thing they should start looking at is maybe another goaltender too. They do have a good young goalie in the minor leagues, Sergei Marashov, who looks really good.
Oh, okay.
He's put up some really good numbers so far, and they started him off in the East Coast League, put up some really good numbers. Then when they had some injuries, they brought him up to the AHL team. He went undefeated, so he was 6-0 in the AHL. Now that their regular goalies are back, they sent him back down to the East Coast League. But he's he's played really well. So if Pittsburgh can find a way to move a goaltender at the deadline, maybe he gets a. I'm not saying he'll get called up to the NHL this year. However, he's a guy they should be giving a look to at some point soon.
So maybe this is someone that you're keeping an eye on for next year and beyond, then I would say.
Yeah, well, I
Potentially.
actually have him in one of my hockey pools.
You do?
So
Is he on your bench?
yeah. He's like one of the minor league players. I actually picked him up when he was playing in the KHL, and then they just brought him over this year because he put up some really, really good numbers in the KHL last year, and the KHL's minor league system. He didn't get a ton of games in the KHL because he's quite young. I think he's only 20 years old. So, and the KHL is known to not bring up a lot of really young
Right.
goaltenders. So, but his numbers have been really good. He's moving up the prospect rankings. So we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll keep an eye on him for next year for sure.
Yeah.
So, and that all leads into our fourth topic. Now, this is an old topic, Mike. We've talked about it before, but I had to bring it up. I believe it is relevant because once again, we're back to TSN here. Tuesday morning, they were once again talking about how it must be that Crosby would love to go to a cup contender. Why stay in that mess that's Pittsburgh? The team is in the bottom 5 teams of the whole league, and that is with Crosby there. So just imagine if he wasn't there. And Mike, I just wanted to add to this. If Crosby was to be traded, just think what it could do for the rebuild for the team. I mean, Crosby's still good value, and they could get a lot for him. So, Mike, have you heard anything at all? Do you think there's any chance at all that Crosby could change his mind and leave Pittsburgh? Because it doesn't look like he wants to.
I think the loyalty that he has to the team is what's going to win out. I don't think he's going to be traded. If for some reason, you know what, they approached him, or I don't think he's going to approach the team and ask for a trade. That's just not his style. Um, if the team were to ask him, and I don't think the team would ask him, to be honest with you. So if they did, you know, present it to him in a way that he'd be helping them moving forward if he wanted to go somewhere else, and obviously they would leave that in his hands if he wanted to move to a different team. But they'd get a pretty good haul for him. I mean,
Yes.
how could you not? It's Sidney Crosby. I mean, he's a proven winner. Um, any team that was to trade for him is going to give up a decent amount if it were to happen. So
Well,
I think,
you're going to get a first round pick guaranteed.
oh, at least one, at least if not two, plus prospects and players. So um, I think if he were to go anywhere, Colorado would be number one on the list. And I don't really think there's a number two. I think Colorado would be the only team he would waive his no trade clause to go to. But
Right.
we'll see what happens. But if I'm a betting man, I'd say it's 99% chance he stays in Pittsburgh. or I should say 87%.
Yeah, 87% chance. Yeah.
So
Like I said, I know we've talked about this before. I wanted to bring it up again. TSN was going on about it, and there's a couple of things that I want to add to this. One, Crosby has 3 Stanley Cups. He's been to 4 finals. He has 3 cup rings. I think if Crosby had 0 cup rings, it might be a different story.
I agree. I agree.
And number 2 is just because he goes to another team that could win a cup doesn't mean that he's going to win the cup. A lot of
Exactly.
other players have moved around and then they don't win the cup. And then he might feel pretty crappy because he went and left his team to try and win a cup, and then they don't do it. They lose in the first or second round, or, it's all over. And then, he might not like that either. So I don't think he's going to go either, but I just wanted to ask. And the questions kind of led into each other. So I wanted to see what you thought. Maybe you had heard something or read something that I didn't. So,
Yeah, no, nothing really. And like I said, I think he's more of a it's like if because he's won the Stanley Cups already. He's won everything there is to win. So
yeah, including the Four
not
Nations
saying that
Cup.
not saying he still doesn't want to win. However, I think the loyalty that he has to the team is going to outweigh anything personal that he has to do moving forward. I think
Yeah.
that's just how he is. So
But it sure would help the team out a lot in the future.
I agree it would, but it's I don't think they want to trade him either. To be honest with you, I think they want him to stay and lead the younger guys over the next couple of years or whatever to become a better team. So and that's the other way that they look at it as well. So it's not what yeah you can get it you can probably get a ton for him, but having him there to mentor the younger players um, it's something. And not only that, having a Crosby on your team is going to draw in, perhaps some more veteran guys. Like if Pittsburgh, you know, more wants to retool than rebuild, they can still bring in some guys because Crosby's there. Guys that might consider, well, might say, no, I don't want to go there because they're rebuilding. However, with Crosby there, and it's Pittsburgh, and they've won before, players might look at it a little bit differently that way.
True, true. All right. Well, let's skip the rest of that. We'll go on to our 5th topic, and that is the Winnipeg Jets, Mike. Now, the Jets have the longest winning streak in the NHL this year at 10 games. Whom did they beat, you might ask? Well, they kind of beat themselves and Carolina. Both teams had 8-game winning streaks this year. I know that Winnipeg's was at the very beginning of the season. Now, Winnipeg has built a 9-point lead in the conference. Now, I had to look at that twice, Mike, because I thought the conference was closer than that. And to see Winnipeg has, managed a 9-point lead in the conference, that's quite substantial. They have been very consistent all year. Can they keep this up? Will they end the year as the number 1 seed in the West, maybe in the entire NHL? I think they're 1 point ahead of Washington right now.
I think Washington has 84 points. So not sure. Does Winnipeg have 85 or
I believe
84?
they have 85, yeah.
Yeah, then they would be one ahead of Washington. So um, you know, this winning streak that they've been on has definitely vaulted them ahead of the teams that were close to them. So
Yes.
um, the West, it's tough to say. Like, I mean, regular season and playoffs are two different things. So I mean, yes, I think they have a good chance of finishing first in the West. Does that translate into success in the playoffs? Well, they did all right last year, and they didn't do so well in the playoffs. So it's tough to say. I think I still like Dallas's chances in the West in the playoffs. I like, if Edmonton can straighten out this goaltending thing, I like their chances as well. But Dallas, the depth that Dallas has, and I think they're going to make a move too. There's talk of them going after a defenseman. I was reading about it today, and I can't remember right off the top of my head who it was, but there's talk of them maybe making a move too. So I think Edmonton and Dallas, maybe Vegas, maybe Winnipeg. I think those are the top teams in the West. So
Right, right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Winnipeg, they did great last year and then not so great in the playoffs. But, it's a different season. and the team has been just so consistent this year. It's crazy how few
Yeah.
losses they have. I think it's 14 or something. 14
Yeah,
losses.
it's not a lot. So
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for that part, Mike. Was there anything you wanted to add to any of that before we go on to our hockey profit segment?
Um, well, on a different topic, the Carolina Hurricanes, like what's happened with them? Like since they've made that trade, which I thought was going to be great for them, I think I don't know if Rantanen wants to be there. So
Doesn't
there's
seem like
even
it, does it?
there's even talk that they might, if they can't get an extension done with them by the deadline, that they might explore trading them somewhere else. So which they're not going to get the value back for what they gave up
No.
if that's what they're doing, because I think that the trade from Colorado to Carolina was like you said, it was a real surprise to him. I think it's really thrown him off. So yeah, we'll see what happens over the next week. But Carolina has not looked good since that trade. I believe they're 3-6 since the trade, and yeah, keeping the puck out of the net's been a bit of a problem for them. So
Well, I was hoping to talk about Carolina next week because I was thinking about asking our friend Chris Bagan to come on and see if he would give us a rundown on Carolina
yeah,
since he knows the team so well. But I was trying to convince him to come on. We'll wait and see if he'll actually come on. But all right, well, let's go into our hockey profit segment, Mike, where you are the hockey profit. I have my timer already here. We've got 5 rapid fire questions. Mike, are you ready?
yeah, ready to go.
All right, number 1, hot or not, Mike? Matvey Michkov, 7 points in 5 games.
Yeah, he is, and Tortorella gave him the most ice time for any forward last night, which
I
is
didn't know
generally not the case at all. So he played
that.
over 17 minutes. He got a couple of assists. In the last 2 games, he's got 5 points. So, yeah, right now he's hot. But as quick as he can be hot, he can be right back in Tortorella's doghouse too. So we'll see what happens.
All right, number 2. On Sunday in Washington, Alexander Ovechkin had a hat trick to move 13 goals away from Gretzky. I know he scored the other night. Now he's 12 goals away.
Yeah.
Will Ovechkin get another hat trick this year, Mike?
Yeah, sure. I think he will. How can he not? He's been on fire here. So
And he's got 30 goals again this year. Unreal. All right, number 3. Gretzky has the most hat tricks in the NHL all time with 50. And Ovechkin is tied for 5th with 32. Mike, who has the second most hat tricks in NHL history?
oh boys, that's a tough one.
No, it's not that tough.
No, I'll say
No,
Mike Bossy. No,
okay. You're
no.
close.
Geez, Brett Hull maybe. I don't
Mike
know.
Mike Bossy was number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's Mario Lemieux. Mario
Oh, is
Lemieux
it
is number
okay?
2.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4. Is Eric Carlson going to be traded from Pittsburgh this year, Mike?
No,
No, you don't think so?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. It's just TSN once again. Oh yeah, Carlson going to be moved. You know the way.
Yeah,
Trying to
I just don't see it happening.
they're trying to ramp up their 22-man trade deadline day thing that they get going there.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Well, they have to because the last couple of
been
not been really
bombs.
big trade deadline days because most of the big players were traded by then. So
That's right. Last year was terrible on trade deadline. So, all right, finally, Mike, number 5, and I'm sure you'll be glad when this is all done. Will the Flyers win both games in the back-to-back against the Penguins? They won last night. Are they going to win tomorrow night?
well, they're on the road tomorrow night. I hope so. I hope so. I don't can't say for sure, but there's always hope. So
There's always hope. And
with Pittsburgh giving up so many goals, it's possible. So I'll say yes if you need a yes or a no.
okay, and even though I don't have this written down here, Mike, just to say the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think, are hot right now too. Even though they've been getting their wins in unconventional ways, so to speak. But it's nice to see their third and fourth lines getting points and doing more.
Yeah, they have been getting some production out of those bottom line players.
They
So,
have, yeah.
and that's what they need. So we'll see if they can keep it up.
All right, Mike, was there anything else that you wanted to add to tonight's episode?
No, no. The only thing like we had already discussed was the Carolina situation, but
We're going to talk about that next week. If they don't start winning, we're gonna bring that up. We don't often talk about Carolina, and I don't watch them usually. So they're not on TV here that often either. So we'll see. I'd like to talk about them next week. See what happens. So
sounds good.
all right. So like, share, and subscribe, folks, and let us know in the comments where we went wrong, because I'm sure we went wrong somewheres. And we will see you all next week. Later.
Later.